In this week's Parshat BeHahlotecha, we're told that the Jewish nation, was in the desert for about 2 years, and they took to complaining, which really irritated God, and he struck the edge of the camp. And then we're told that these rabble rousers worked up a a taiva, a desire for meat, and they started complaining. And the narrative tells us again that they had man, that God had given them the manna, and that they should have been content. But as God put it, they weren't happy, and they didn't accept God within their midst. They rejected God within their midst. And I think what that's trying to tell us is that really God gave them the money that should have kept them happy if and sustained, but they were looking for something. They were rejecting that completeness, that wholeness, and they just wanted something other than that wholeness, just to be with God and to be sustained by their basic needs, which God was taking care of and should have sufficed. But they were bored and they were looking for something. And they started complaining, and Moshe heard each of the families in their tents complaining amongst themselves about the man, about the fact that they didn't have meat, and he was so upset, and he went and made this impassioned plea to God, and he says to them, um, why did you do this evil to your servant? Have I not found favor in your eyes that you placed the burden of the entire people upon me? Did I conceive this people, or did I give birth to it? That you say to me, carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries a suckling to the land you swore to its forefathers? And where shall I get meat to give this entire people when they weep to me and say, give us meat that we may eat? I alone cannot carry this nation, for it's too heavy for me. And if this is how you deal with me, then kill me now, if I have found favor in your eyes, and let me not see my evil. Wow. Wow. And what's God's response? God's response is, gather for me 70 men among the elders of Israel, who you know to be the elders of Israel and its officers, and take them to the tent of the meeting and have them stand there with you. And I, God says, will descend and speak with you there, and I'll increase some of the spirit that is upon you and take it from you and place it on those people, and they'll share the burden with you of the people, and that you won't have to carry them alone. This is like, wow, what is this trying to say? Why is this helpful to him? And why, if it was too much, I mean, one person to be the leader of this whole entire nation, doesn't God know that? And why wouldn't he set up this system in the first place? So I think that all this can be answered in what I said before, is that really, if the nation was just uh, their desires and their hearts was in the right place, they had everything they needed. They should have been sustained. They should have seen and felt God in their midst and just been content that everything was taken care of. But they didn't want that. They rejected that, and they were looking for just to serve, to work up some taivas and to fulfill their desires. That it's basically said in the narrative that they hit avu taiva, like they created this desire. It wasn't there. It was something that was fabricated. They manifested themselves. Um, that's what happens when people are bored and they can't just be content and thankful and grateful for what they have. And the reason why I say that's the case is because then God did. He brought these the quail. He had them blow in an enormous amount of quail that they all just got went and grabbed and took so much. They all took so much for themselves, and they just grabbed and they started eating it. And it says that it wasn't even, it was still stuck between their teeth, where God got so angry that he sent the makkah. He just took off, killed off, slew of them. And I think that I mean, so you would say, well, why would God give them the meat if he's going to just have them eat it and die off? But I think that God gives people like a certain grace. And even though he's very angry, I think, maybe if he thought that he sent it to give the people opportunity to maybe gather it in a non-piggish manner and say, oh wow, wow, look at this. Even meat we asked for and God does this miracle and he just blows in the quail and we get to eat it. This is just amazing. I can't believe it. And, thank God and do some sort of assessment of their situation. But instead of saying, wow, look at this, not only did God give us the man, now he's giving us meat. He's blowing in meat in the desert, making just blowing into our laps. But no, they grabbed it and picked it out, and no, thank you, no gratitude, no nothing. It was just disgusting. It was a disgusting display of the people. And so I think that's why God gave it to them. But why does it help? Let's go back. I want this question is why does it help Moshe when all this is going on to break up his spirit? And why, if that's the case, didn't God just give him the 70 elders that were supposed to help him to spiritually guide these people? Why not give it to him in the get-go? And I think that really was, um, it really should not have been if everything was the proper way. That if the people all have good intentions and just say, okay, if we have everything we need, we'll work together and appreciate God and appreciate everything they had, then one leader should be enough just to bring the word of God and to assist them. But the fact is that they, as God said, rejected God in the midst, meaning that it wasn't just something that they wanted to accept and be content to have their needs met. And then the 70 elders that God told Moshe that should help them represent, like we always say 70 when we want to talk about all the different types of personalities. Shivim Panim LaTorah, there's 70 different ways to interpret the Torah. So there are 70 different personalities. And if people are not trying to, just be a people of God and be willing to look at the good and the God in everything and lead their lives that way, then there's going to be all this diversity. And there's going to be a need for not just one leader. One leader will never suffice for a people divided, for people that are not trying to work together under God. Then you need multiple leaders to represent each and every different person, to deal with them on the level that they are on, and to be able to understand them and help them in a way that hopefully will spiritually guide them back on the path that they can all get back to where that one leader could possibly be effective. So I think that's what happened. And I really, really feel for Moshe, and I think there's something that we can learn from him and his speech also is like he was overwhelmed and he asked God, why did you throw this people upon me and that I should have to see this evil? I just take my life. And a lot of times we feel that, we're given these tasks in life that are just so difficult for us and we didn't ask for them. They just fell upon us somehow. But if they fell upon us somehow, it is our obligation. In life, we don't always ask for what's thrown in our laps, but it is, and we have to deal. And if you need help, God is saying, then get help. There's nothing wrong with getting help. When things are difficult and things didn't go the way you think they should go, don't try to keep taking that burden alone, or don't just say it's the end of it. Those are not the only two options. There are other options, and the other options is to seek as much help from people who know the best how to help you, how to do those things. And I think that's the most important message for us today, is because people tend to either burden themselves and try to carry everything and take care of everything till they get so overwhelmed where they just get to this point where they just can't handle it anymore and they totally break. So we shouldn't wait for that. Let's get the help we need from the people who can provide it until we can get back on track and just live a good life with God as one nation. Shabbat Shalom.